From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between. This is the 50/50 podcast, powered by National Scouting Report. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game. Here we go. It's another edition of the 50/50 podcast, powered by our proud partners, NSR, National Scouting Report. They are the world's leading authority on athletic recruiting. You can get more information on what they're about on social media, on Twitter, or X, I should say, at NSR Now, as well as on Instagram at NSR_now. And you can get more information on the many great things they're doing on their website at nsr-inc.com. My next guest, she is an individual I had the pleasure of getting to meet during the recent TASCO, Texas High School Soccer Coaches Convention. Big fan of hers, and a lot more kind of links as we found out the more we talked. So it's pretty awesome. Great to have her here. She's doing great things up in the capital city area. She is the head women's soccer coach of the Austin Anderson Trojans. She is Emily Horvath. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Excited to be here. Loved getting to chat with you at the TASCO conference. Like you said, hoping we get to unpack some more of those links and excited to chat today about the upcoming season.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us, let's just go ahead. Let's just dive right in. Tell us, how's it going?
Yeah, so far so good. We had our first week of practices under the belt this week. Looking forward to next week, our first scrimmage. It'll be really great to finally see the girls playing together. We're fortunate to have pretty high return numbers this year. I have 19 seniors, which is
wow.
Yeah, the largest senior class I think you've probably ever had in Anderson girls soccer history, with the addition of some newcomers as well. So I think we're just really excited to get to actually play a game coming up here. But this week's been exciting. We had media day, we had team kickoff party, so we are hyped up and ready to go.
Yeah. So tell us, who do you feel going into day one, right back on Monday this week? Because everybody seemed like they were just super excited. As every year, as another year goes by, it just seems like people are just counting down the days and more excited every year, right? Which is awesome. It's awesome to see across the state. But who was more nervous, you or your players?
You know, one of my coworkers actually asked me this in the hallway the other day. They said, "Did you get more nervous as a player, as a coach?" You know, I don't have that sense that the girls are nervous. I have the sense that they're hungry. You know, I think there were a lot of nerves going into last season with our first year kind of back in 6A with this group. I think that a little bit of nerve is good, and I think that still exists. But, you know, I think my demeanor is what the girls feed off of. So I don't know if one of us is more nervous than the other. I think we're all kind of at that steady level for now. I'm sure that'll fluctuate throughout the season, but I hope that we're on the same page there.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's good to hear, I guess. Now, as the week unfolded, was there something, because it typically happens to us as coaches, right? We prep, we prepare, we plan, and somehow there's just something that we didn't see coming, or something that maybe we just kind of a small little detail that kind of came out of nowhere. Did you find yourself in kind of any of those situations this week?
You know, I think the more challenging piece of this week and next week and kind of leading up during preseason is that we're still in that heavy balance between club soccer and high school soccer.
Yeah.
And, you know, we expect that, we plan for that, but I think that we still have to acknowledge that we are in that balance time, and there's value in both, and having to kind of balance the dynamic when you have players maybe missing for showcases or practice, but still making sure that you're focusing on the team because it's your first time as a team. I think our girls did a great job of that, and showing they're committed to both. Other than that, just after school practices, every school's different. We have the block schedule at Anderson. So,
Mhm.
we have a very strong academic school. We have the IB program. I've got
Nice.
4 or 5 varsity seniors in IB, and, having them miss a couple minutes, hours of practice each week is something we're going to have to get used to while we're in preseason, but we're looking forward to having them back full time next semester.
Awesome. Great stuff. So how do you, it's a great point. You talk about trying to strike that balance, right? With, and I call it as many call it, right? That load management piece, particularly with not just your club players, but even your multi-sport athletes, right? And
Mhm.
how do you find, because these are two big weekends, right now in the club soccer world, right? In terms of showcases, tournaments, ID camps this weekend and next weekend. How do you, how do you find yourself kind of balancing that with, because I'm assuming you have a good healthy number of club players, especially when they may play for just a couple of clubs, or maybe they're even teammates on the club side. How do you find yourself trying to balance that?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, and the way we found the most success is day one. We have very, very clear expectations in our program. We have a handbook that we don't even touch the soccer field the first week of
Hmm.
school. We are in the classroom studying the handbook, making sure we understand it, making sure we're creating that buy-in. And so we've really outlined the year and as it pertains to that balance. So it's exactly what we both just said. I know we talked about this at Tasco as well, and finding that way to prevent injury and that balance. And so from August until January, it's a balance. It is. And for my girls, as long as they're communicating with me in advance, and we have again a very clear cutoff, 9 a.m. the morning of, they need to communicate to me if they have a heavy club practice or a game, or they're coming off of 3 games in a weekend, and they can say, I'm I'm a little worried about fatigue of my legs here. May I have the day off of leg work, conditioning, or maybe the whole day? And again, as long as it's communicated, I say, absolutely, I'll support you in that.
Yeah.
You still need to dress out. You need to be on the sideline with your teammates. And then, of course, once we transition into season time, we ask that their focus shift
Hmm.
to Anderson soccer. Um, and fortunately, there haven't been too many overlaps. And if they do, I think it's hard on everyone. It's hard on the girls. They feel terrible being torn between making a decision on the two. And I think our job as coaches is to try to take that pressure off of them. And my communication to them is always, if we preach, we are building and prepping you for life after high school, then my question to you is always going to be, which route is going to support you in your goals for life after high school? And I'm going to support you in that as well.
Oh, awesome. Well said. Yeah, love to hear that. Absolutely. Um, so speaking of which, you talked about the expectations, the standards, what you've established there. You're going into your third year as the head coach, fourth year overall there at Anderson. Let's talk a little bit about that transformation in your time there, right? What what has that been like from, when you step back from time to time? Because obviously, as the head coach, you're so immersed in it, right? But when you step back from time to time, or maybe when others maybe kind of give you feedback and input, what is that transformation and the evolution of your program? What has that been like?
Yeah. I have to start with giving kudos to Erin Magoo, who was the former head coach of Anderson, who's now at Highland Park. She really built a foundation of these high expectations and, set me up to come in for success. So when I took over the program, we were really in this transitional moment period of time, as you mentioned.
Right.
That first year when I was the JV coach and the assistant, that was Anderson's first year of ever having 3 teams. So that alone shows the growth of the sport itself and the sport within Anderson. And then I think when I took over, my focus really was, can I retain these numbers? Can I create an environment that really shows the girls that we want them to come back, that they're valuable here, and just trying to keep those numbers up keep that buy-in. And I think that's where I put a lot of my focus. Every single time I give an expectation, I provide reasoning for why we do that. I think showing them that we're not just making decisions to make decisions and actually providing some context for them has really created buy-in. I think that shows in the fact that we have 19 seniors this year. They love playing for each other. They love playing for our coaches. I have 3 fantastic assistants this year as well. So I think, the clear expectations, the building them up, supporting them in any activities they're doing outside of soccer, and then being vulnerable and showing them a little bit of my human side sometimes, I think, is really what's allowed us to grow so much as a program. I also
coaches don't have human sides. Coach. What are you talking about?
Well, it was, when I first came in, I kind of was under this maybe misconception that I had to be this kind of stone cold, I was fairly young. I was new. And as time went on, I was like, that's not a rule. They need to see who I am. Right. I can relate to them. And I really think that it's just brought our team closer together, and it shows on the field as well.
Good. That's awesome. Yeah, it is kind of interesting, right? I think, well, and that's the piece that you have to, that it takes time to learn, and coaching is like, what is your, not beyond philosophy, methodology, right? Or your badges, your training, your whatever courses you may have, certifications. It's like, what is your style, right? And learning that and figuring that out. I think that's an important piece too, especially when you step into that role as a head coach, because all of a sudden you find yourself realizing it's not as simple as it looks, right? So now, you talked about, you referenced earlier making the jump back up, and we're going to get into it a little bit more, but going back into 6A, 26 6A, you found yourself last year, first year, with the likes of, some of the powers in the region, in Lake Travis, Dripping Springs, who came up with you guys, Westlake, just to name a few. You go in there, you sneak in there, you make the playoffs, right? 4th place. What was that like? What were you really thinking going into the start of last year, back in 26 6A, in a brutal district? And did it surprise you how it played out, or did it kind of play out how you secretly maybe thought it would versus how you hoped it would? Where were you on that?
Yeah. When we found out we were going into that district, I think all of us kind of took that deep breath, like, oh, this is going to be tough. And that's that day that was announced. That's the day my work started on it. And so I tried to get ahead of it. I knew the girls were going to be talking like, this is going to be tough. And I wanted to make sure that I was framing their mindsets as early as I could. And so I started the talk from day one that we were going to make playoffs. And I was really happy to see that buy-in from the girls. And, we set goals, and I'd say 99% of the program, their goal was to make playoffs. Now, do I think that other people in the soccer community and maybe even at Anderson thought that we were going to do that? No. But I can truly say that I believed we would. I thought it was going to be a scrappy battle between about 3 or 4 of us for that 3rd or 4th place spot. And it ended up being just that. And so, I think having had that experience now, the girls are hungry for more. I don't think that it's a goal this year to make playoffs. I think it's a goal to finish in the top 2, top 3, which is really awesome to hear them saying.
And did you feel like that momentum picked up at the start of this year? Did it pick up right where it left off at the end of last school year, right? Did it take them a while to kind of get ramped up again and remember what you all accomplished last year?
Yeah. I think that's a tough question. I think we're maybe yet to find out. I think that they are excited, but I also think that they know that other people are going to see us maybe in a different way than they did the first round of district last year. I think we surprised some teams, maybe not some, maybe some expected it from us from talking with some coaches. But my perspective on it is whatever possible underdog we had going into last year, that's not the case anymore. So I think that there might be a little more kind of nerve there from the girls, but they're ready to face the challenge. And I think that when they have the expectation of if we, making playoffs is the expectation now. So I think they're ready to meet that challenge this year.
So 2 years ago, you were in 17-5A. You win a district title. I think you win 19. I think it was 19-2 or 20-2, right, Coach?
Yep. And we were co-district champions with McAllen that year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you make it to the area round. How did that aspect? Did you feel that kind of gave you that launching pad, if you will, into the success that you had last year in 6A?
Yeah, absolutely. Even if we go back one more year too, we set program history with our third round playoff run. So I think the year you're referencing, my first year as the head coach when we lost in the area round was a bit of a gut punch for us. We really felt we had the momentum that year to be in that state tournament. And that was a gutting game also, the ones that you could have won, maybe should have won, are the ones that hurt the most. But I mean, that team was also right there with us. But absolutely, I think, coming in to 6A as a top ranked state and a top ranked team in the state in 5A definitely gave us the momentum we needed to compete in 6A.
Right. So obviously you play in a brutal district in 6A, 26 6A, and no disrespect to any of them. This is not intended as a slight to them, but from your perspective, right, that you have some coaches that'll listen to this. As you know, we're coming up on realignment. They're talking about they may announce cutoff cutoff numbers within the next week, and we'll know in February. Where everybody's going to settle in. And you may have some coaches that are, hey, we're 5A right now, and we're expecting to make that jump to 6A. What would you say to them? What would you recommend to them?
I would recommend that they, if that is the case, that they be the ones to welcome the challenge and be excited about the challenge rather than say, oh man, like that's brutal. I wish we were staying in 5A. Instead, be excited about the competition. And that energy will show to your players and will only help you guys as you make that transition and that jump into some of the more competitive teams.
Did you feel like it was as big of a jump as some people make it out to be or have it in their heads?
Yes and no. I think in general, it's maybe not as big of a jump as some people make it out to be. I think, again, as you mentioned, our specific district with, some of the teams that we are with, it was quite a different level of competition, especially from our previous district. But again, of course, we try to match up with some teams in preseason that are similar so that we're not totally, taken aback by the level.
Yeah. So 26 6A, tell us a little bit about, I always love asking coaches this, right? It's like, how would you, maybe one or two key personality traits or characteristics of every team within your district? How would you describe 26 6A?
I would say drive. In some other districts, maybe there's some teams who just aren't quite, have that mindset of go, go, go. And every team you're going to face in our district wants that win, and no one's given up, at halftime. So I think drive, and then intelligence. And I think intelligence goes for the players and for the coaches. We have a lot of really top level club players across the board playing for all the schools in our district. And a lot of the girls actually play together, as well as some really intelligent, soccer wise coaches, and then just experienced coaches. And I think it makes for a really fun season. I've loved playing in 6A. I hope, as the years go on, we continue to get the opportunity to, because like I said, I welcome that challenge. I think that competition is what makes us better. And so
Yeah, it was it was an interesting dynamic there that I experienced there at Tasco, right? I was there one of the evenings. Next thing I know, I find myself at it was the Austin table, right, as I call it, right, or the 26 6A table, and yeah, it was so we got coaches on both sides of the house, right, from multiple schools in that district, and they're all very much uh, very being social with each other, hanging out with one another, and embracing one another, and it was just like this sense of camaraderie within the district that I thought was pretty it was pretty awesome to experience. What was that like for you as you're sitting there, you're kind of taking all of that in? What was your perspective?
yeah, I think it was pretty similar to you. I have to shout out Will Maloney at Lake Travis. I think he was kind of the one that brought us all together, and certainly was the one who made sure I was there at Tasco. That was my first year at Tasco, and I can't express how pleasantly surprised I was by the organization itself. And I thought the event they put on was fantastic between the sessions and just everything. But more to what you were referencing, just that healthy like rivalry and camaraderie between the coaches. I mean, you have our district top 4 team coaches sitting down together, laughing and having a good time. And it's that mutual respect for one another was just more valuable than I thought it could be. And just getting to hear from them, of course, we all tried to get some information out of one another, and I'm sure we all kept some things to ourselves, which again was fun and what we all expected. But there's so much value in talking to people who are literally experiencing and going through what you are. I have fantastic assistant coaches, and but they're not doing all the behind the scenes that these other coaches are. So getting to talk to them and bounce some ideas off of these guys was really valuable.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the level of conversations that were taking place, they were pretty awesome. They were pretty great. That's kind of why I mentioned it as well. But and big shout out to Coach Maloney there of Austin, Lake Travis. I call him the mayor. The guy could run for the mayor of Austin, or is going to run for mayor one day. So he's a character. Great stuff. And I actually mentioned that to him. Had him and Emma Fox on the podcast there at the convention, and I told him, I was like, man, you guys. So all of you guys, let me get this right. All of you guys drove down to Galveston just so you guys could all the Austin coaches could go to dinner together. It's pretty interesting.
Yes.
So
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So now we start looking at this year, coach, right? And your squad. Tell us over the next couple of weeks, you mentioned some scrimmages. Give us a little bit more insight. What are the next few weeks for your squad? What do they look like?
Yeah. I think we have a good balance of some kind of competition levels to just sort of get us in the flow of playing, and then building up to some competition. For example, heading up to the College Station Classic in early January, where we will face Seven Lakes again. We got to play them last year, and I think that's a really fantastic kind of game to lead us into our 6A district. But for me, preseason is really all about giving everyone on your roster the opportunity to play. It's your opportunity as a coach to try out some different formations, maybe put some players in some different positions, get different players playing together. And I think as a coach too, I struggle with this. I know others do as well. We want to win. We want to show what we're made of in these scrimmages. But sometimes you have to be willing to, give everyone that shot, because in my 2 years of previously of doing this, there's always someone who surprises you, who you maybe wouldn't have given that chance in a game. But here you are in a scrimmage, you're rotating them in, and they're stepping up and doing their job, and they've just earned themselves some playing time. So for me, that's what preseason is all about: getting in their teams for warm up, getting their team of game day, and then getting to see them with a little bit of that pressure taken off, so that you can make sure come district play that you've got, your strongest 11 on the field and you're ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. There's always always seems like there's one player that kind of comes out of nowhere, right? Never fails. And that's great to watch. It's exciting to watch it unfold in front of you. So
Mhm.
now tell us maybe one or two things that has you at this point going into this season. What are maybe one or two things that have you the most excited about this year's team?
Yeah. I've said it a couple times already, but it's, this class of seniors, there's 19 of them. I think 11 of them came in with me my first year, and 10 of them played for me on JV their freshman year. So, they've gotten to be coached under me for the last 3.5 years now. So yeah, I've seen what this group is really capable of. I know how much they want this. I know how much drive they have. So watching them kind of ball out their senior year, I'm so excited to watch. Like I said, in some of our talk before, we have such a talented group of juniors, sophomores, and freshmen to support them, and I have a lot of talented sophomores on JV that we're ready to start building up and getting them ready to come up as well. So that has got me really excited, and then we've got a couple new players this year as well that I'm really excited to throw into the mix. And I won't say much more about that, but I'm ready for them to come in and make an impact on the field.
Very good, very good. Now, how do you feel about having 19 seniors? I mean, what is that? Does that present its own set of just unique, just management? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it certainly does. Obviously, 19 could be an entire roster. I do have 2 in basketball, 2 are injured, and 2 are goalies. So when you
Mhm.
really break it down, we're looking at 13 field players.
Yeah.
And, I'll play a different role. And again, they've played for me for 4 years now, 3.5 years now. And they all have something to contribute. And I'm just so fortunate to have such an incredible group of girls to where we've been able to manage, within that. It certainly comes with its challenges. It makes
Right.
my job a little tough at times, but kudos to them and to my staff and making sure everyone has that role.
Awesome. So, we started segueing here a little bit, Coach, and we've mentioned it. Obviously, the convention, right? The TESCO, Texas High School Soccer Coaches Convention, took place a couple of weeks ago, November. What was that? 15th through the 7th, or 15th through the 18th. Um, Tell us about. You had a chance to process all of that. You left Galveston, went back to Austin. Tell us a little bit about just your experience.
Yeah. Yeah, like I mentioned, I thought it just kind of surpassed my expectations.
You said it was
I
your
thought
first year, right? You said first year.
that was my favorite. Yep.
Yeah.
The first 2 years I coached were kind of COVID years. And then last year when I wasn't there, I heard about it and I didn't know about it. And so I was really happy to get to go this year. Um, I thought that the spread of presenters field session wise was really incredible. Of course, I didn't have anything to compare it to. But from what I heard from other people as well, they were equally as impressed. There was something for everybody. I thought the
Mhm.
classroom sessions and the personnel that got to present was great. We got to hear from Bailey Perrine at Dripping Springs, and we all went and listened in on that as well. And I definitely was able to leave with a couple session ideas, some coaching tips, some different perspectives. I had a great conversation. I can't remember who it was with, but we were talking about some of the sessions and, saying, oh, well, this wouldn't work for my program. And I said, well, I think that's the point, right? If we all did the same thing,
Right.
then no one would be great. I think, it makes a good coach great is being willing to listen to other people and think about the particular players you have
Hmm.
and being willing to maybe change what you've done in the past to fit that group of players. And what works for someone else's team is not necessarily going to work with the group of players I have. But as long as you're willing to listen and keep an open mind and, not be too proud to change certain things as they come up.
Right.
That was a takeaway I had on my way home. I was like, maybe this is how I've always done it, but it might not be a bad thing to look into that.
What from a presenter, and I know you mentioned a few, but maybe what was the one that surprised you maybe the most from what you got to sit on, whether it was a field session, classroom, what have you, interaction with maybe it was even an interaction with a vendor, but what maybe surprised you the most? Any one of those?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a tough.
Apologize if you're listening. Looks like we might have some technical difficulties there with Coach Horvath. I know we're trying to refresh her now. And again, apologies for technical difficulties here if you are listening. So as we await for Coach Horvath to return, so we're in the middle. We've talked about them coming. They were 26-6A last year. They made the jump coming up from 17-5A where they won co-district champions, make it into the area round, and actually have her reconnecting right now. I know she's joining us. No, she's joining us right now, actually trying to get her back on. But so we talk about her time, 17-5A, and looks like she's coming back in there. And Coach, can you hear us?
I'm back.
All right. Technology is great when it works. Our apologies again, technical difficulties, but we got her back. Coach Horvath, thank you. So, okay. So I was putting you on the spot, but you were trying to give me the diplomatic answer about what surprised you the most about maybe a presenter at Tasco. What were your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. So I don't know what point I cut off. So let me know if I'm repeating
I
myself.
think we lost you right when you were saying I think you were going to say difficult. I think that's a difficult one or something like that, or it sounded something like that, and then it cut you off.
Okay. Yeah, I think I was going to say it's difficult for me to pinpoint one. And I said I apologize. I can't remember the presenter's name, but
Mhm.
it was the last session before I left, actually on Saturday morning. It was some positionless play. I think it was the Toros coach or someone from there, and I've already taken some of those session ideas and implemented concepts from that at practice. And,
It
the
wasn't Frank the Cranian, was it?
yes,
It was. Okay. Yeah, yeah. We had him on the. I'll make sure I get you more info on that. We actually had him on the podcast there at Tasco. So
okay,
yeah,
or maybe it may have been Joan Casanova, Bertum. I don't
it
know.
could have been one of the other. Yeah, because it
One
was
of
part of
those. Yeah.
the international soccer school, right? There was
Right.
four of them, three or four of them that were there. So yeah, it could have been one of those. But either way, it sounds like it was probably one of the international soccer school guys.
Yeah,
So
I really enjoyed the field sessions. Honestly, I don't know if I really realized that they were going to have all that space and actually get to take us through session ideas. So I really found that surprising and valuable for me.
mhm, good. Um, What was your thought on just seeing in terms of the number of coaches, the event itself? Because and you're right, you picked a heck of a year to go for your first year because it was many people. The one thing that was getting back to me last year was our first year going with a podcast, and it was great. It was great without a doubt. But this year, it just seemed like this year's lineup was kind of next level, right? Presenters, clinicians, everything. Um, but from your perspective, what was maybe some of the feedback you were getting from other coaches in terms of their takeaways of the experience?
Yeah, I mean, there were what must have been at least 1,000 coaches there throughout the weekend.
It was just under, I believe, just under 1,100 in attendance total.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I think that alone is incredible. It shows how much respect I think the coaching community has for Tasco and what they've put together, and what they're offering us has value. So yeah, talking with coaches, I spent a lot of time again with Erin McGoo Park, Katie Bourgeois from Bridgeland, and then some of my, fellow District 26 6A coaches and chatting with them. I think, the camaraderie piece, maybe being one of the first things and just getting to talk with different coaches and meeting different coaches was maybe the first thing that comes to mind. And then the second being those classroom sessions also. And that plays more into what I was saying before. Even if maybe, you come out of one of those sessions saying, I don't know if that really, jives with me. I think any opportunity you have to challenge your perspective and hear from someone else is going to be valuable in and of itself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it was, it sounds like you had a lot of great moments, a lot of great experiences. And then at one point you found yourself sitting at a table next to me. So I apologize for that one. But it was great. No, it was a great conversation.
No, that was awesome. Yeah.
Great conversation with multiple coaches. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. So a couple of more here, coach, before we start to transition. But from your perspective, right, how you've seen Texas high school soccer grow maybe over the last couple of years, what would you say is maybe one or two of the biggest things you've seen over the last 5 years? And where do you see it going in the next 5 years?
That's a fantastic question. I think back to my time playing high school soccer and when I got kind of roped into where I am now, which is a story in and of itself. But my high school soccer experience was awesome. Lindley Amarantos at Memorial High School in Houston, she's still there. She had just a fantastic program, was so organized. So I definitely took that experience. But I will say, when I was in high school, the kind of mindset of club players and club coaches at the high school level was, this is just high school. Like, this is just for fun. I don't know if I ever really thought about rankings or playoffs or anything like that as being a part of a pretty successful team. So when I got the opportunity to come coach, I was expecting that, that kind of more lax environment. And I was very pleasantly surprised that these days, and it seems to be, not just at Anderson, obviously, what seems to be a growing of schools is that the value from the players themselves, from their student athletes themselves that they put on high school soccer has grown so much. And I think that that's in part due to people like you and platforms like this. Also, I think being at Tasco also showed me there's so many more coaches now who played themselves, whether that be for top club teams or played in college. And having high school coaches with actual experience is so valuable for these girls. And so I think that the respect that Texas high school soccer has gained has made it, even better as it's grown, which I think is amazing.
Right. Yeah. And you were no slouch of yourself as a player, right? So I know you're not going to brag, so I'll brag on you, right? Former Trinity Tiger and first team All-American, right? Academic All-American as well, right? So that's pretty awesome. And I know you were on that. What was it? Was it 2013, 2012,
2013, yeah.
2013 national runner-up and coached by good friend of mine, Coach Lance Key. And I was actually coaching at the Air Force Academy during that time. So I was, as ironic as it is, I was following you guys closely on that championship run and it was played here in San Antonio. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. So I was
at Scorpion Stadium at the time.
Yeah, it was very much pulling for you guys. So now, from that perspective, how much of your experience, because you were a very high level player, do you feel that sometimes maybe, and being completely honest, do you feel sometimes that hinders the patience you might need as a coach a little bit sometimes when a player can't quite do what came more natural to you, I guess, if you will?
Honestly, no, because when I came to Trinity, I had struggles of my own technically. And it was, I have to shout out Lance Key, who I, give a lot of credit to building me into not only the player I was, but the person I have become and the coach I am now. Certainly, I model a lot of what I do from my experience with him and with Owen colleagues at Classics Elite now.
Yeah.
So, I couldn't strike a ball when I got to Trinity. It was actually a joke on the team that I had he called it like a salmon foot. I couldn't lock my ankle. I was a center mid who couldn't, really distribute very well. And so, Lance and Owen took the time out of our practice schedules to work with me one-on-one. And, by the end of my freshman year, and certainly by the end of my senior year, I was probably one of the best distributors there was. And I bring this up because I was coached very specifically on that skill. Coach my players on that skill or on other things like that.
So, and that's it. So, so that comes, you keep that one close to heart, right? So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
And and I don't know, Coach, actually, we didn't talk about this prior to, but I'm assuming, but big shout out to Coach Lance Key, who recently announced his retirement from coaching. So a great coach, kind of sad to see it go, but also happy for him. So congrats, Coach.
Absolutely.
Congrats.
I was going to shout that out at the end if it didn't come up before, but
oh no, you should have done it.
No, that's okay. But yeah, Lance, I'm sure you'll see this at some point. But yeah, congratulations on a beyond fantastic career. Like I said to him earlier, he impacted so many lives, mine included.
Right. Absolutely. And I might have to steal his line, that salmon foot. I might have to steal that. So I love that. That's pretty great. That's awesome. So, all right, Coach, we start to, we're going to go ahead. We're going to segue here now. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to get to pick on you a little bit more, right? Ask both some soccer and some non-soccer related questions through our counterattack. But before we do that, we're going to tell everybody about our good friends at Gipper. So Gipper is the way schools, athletic departments, ADs, and coaches create world-class marketing content. Join over 3,000 coaches, ADs that use Gipper to create high-quality visual branded graphics for your program. The best part, anyone can do it in seconds on any device without needing any design experience whatsoever. In the event you do have significant design experience, you are what they call the power user. This is very much a platform for you as well. And just for being a 50/50 podcast supporter and listener, you get to save money. So listeners of the 50/50 podcast, they can receive 10% off. I almost said 50 there. Sorry. 10% off any first-time Gipper purchase. Simply visit gipper.com/partner/5050 to learn more. Again, that's gipper.com/partner/5050. And our other good friends at Global Scarves. Not sure, Coach, did you see them there at Tasco, by the way?
I did.
Global Scarves, folks. Yeah. So Kyle and Bill got to interact with them, had them come on the podcast as well. And Global Scarves, they're top-notch, absolutely top-notch. They are the top provider of custom knitted scarves, beanies, and other fan merchandise in the U.S. All merch is fully customized and with free design services and free shipping on all orders. You can contact them at info@globalscarves.com to get any free designs or quotes built out for your club, your school. Maybe you have a supporters group that you want to do as well. They do it all. So you can contact them at info@globalscarves.com. Simply mention the podcast, the 50/50 podcast, or you can also use the code #50/50pod. So, all right, Coach, it is that time, the moment of truth, where we get to pick on you a little bit. You ready?
I don't have a choice. No, yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So, all right, first one. So all of these apply unless I specify otherwise as a coach, not as a player. Okay. So game day superstitions or rituals?
High ponytail when coaching.
High ponytail. Okay.
Yep. And then I am definitely our warm up has to be done in a very particular order at very particular times. Yep.
Yeah, regimented. Yeah, me too. So not the ponytail, of course, but yeah. So
I don't know. I think you could rock a ponytail.
I don't know. I might need some time, but so okay. So now the ponytail. So it's always the same, no matter what. Even if you don't change it up at all. If you all lose a game, you don't start doing all that stuff, or do you?
Yeah. Sometimes if I feel like we need a change, I will change it.
Yeah. Okay. I knew there was more there that you weren't telling us. So, all right. Strangest thing in your refrigerator right now?
Oh, like maybe the fact that there's like no food.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah.
No one has said an empty refrigerator, so that would be a
Yeah.
first. So,
Need to go to the grocery store.
all right. All right, next one. Greatest sports movie.
She's the Man.
Okay.
Amanda Bynes
Yeah.
comedy, a classic.
What year? When did that come out again? When was that? Like early 2000? When is
Yeah,
that?
probably like 2007, I wanna say. I don't
Oh,
know, somewhere
is that
around,
late?
maybe 2009, somewhere in there.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, that one does get mentioned pretty regularly. So, all right. If not a coach or educator, you would have been what?
Um, Probably some sort of therapist. I studied psychology at
Mhm.
Trinity and was going into behavior therapy before I transitioned to teaching.
You decided to join the dark side. I see. So, yeah, that is pretty interesting. So, you ever look back on it at all
Oh, yeah,
and kind of like how, what kind of route that would have led to?
definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm really happy that I am where I am now because if I
Right.
hadn't gone into teaching, I wouldn't have ended up coaching.
Hmm.
And that, well, that's a whole different story again. Like I said, I started in elementary school teaching and got roped into the high school realm. So I wouldn't have been here if that hadn't happened. So very
Right.
happy that that did.
There are no mistakes, right? So,
Nope,
all
definitely.
right. So, next one. It's a superpower question here. Invisible or mind reader? Which one?
Invisible.
Really?
I don't need to hear what's going on in everyone's mind. I need to just keep up with my own.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Describe yourself as a player when you were a player.
Competitive, um, intense, and skill wise was definitely like heading was my strength.
Heading.
Heading the ball.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, well, you could have told Lance then you didn't need the foot, right? If
Yeah,
you were that great in the air, man.
that's
Okay.
how I got there. So
Yeah. All right. All right. So, Emily Horvath is appointed the soccer czar in America. You oversee all soccer, right? What's the big thing, item number one that you would change soccer in America tomorrow?
oh, I don't know. That's hard. Something about like promoting women's soccer and getting people to games and getting it on, more streamlined channels and times.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is I love asking that one because you can go in so many directions with it. And there isn't a wrong answer. So yeah. Oh, well said. Who would play you in a movie?
I have
Doesn't
no.
have to look like you. It can be maybe personality or just an actress that you feel like, hey, this person gets me.
Oh man, the only person that came to mind because I talked about her last night was Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, okay. All right. So not bad. Wasn't she? No, no. I was thinking she wasn't in. I took my daughters to go see that recent Hunger Games movie, the one that's in
Oh yeah.
theaters right now. But I was like, no, she wasn't in
Ooh.
that. No, yeah.
No, that is her. Or she was in the original
She
one.
was in
Yeah.
the right, right,
Right.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
these, I guess, apparently they're like prequels, I guess,
Prequel. Yeah.
which of
Yeah.
course I didn't know until I'm in the theater and my daughter's explaining it to me, and I'm like, wow, okay. So I was way off. All right. Current music and podcast playlist. What's in the rotation there in the phone?
Yeah. Podcast wise, I'm on a true crime kick.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do pretty much anything that kind of pops up on the longer episodes. Music wise, Spotify and Apple Music are coming out with your top 5 artists of the year. So I think mine, hate to be one of the people, but mine came out as Taylor Swift #1,
Uh,
Harry Styles, and Green Sky Bluegrass.
okay, good.
So
All right.
a little bit of a
So
spreader.
yeah, the true crime piece on the podcast side that I find myself like I've either been talking about that a lot or I've been getting asked about that a lot lately. Because on the most recent episode that we just had, with Zane Barnes right out of Winthrop, that same thing came up. We were talking about true crime and another podcast too. Just as like it tends to be that surprises a lot of people as one of the biggest genres in podcasting. Very big, a lot of fans, a lot of fans. All right, so next one. How would your players describe you?
I would hope that they say
every coach starts it with that.
I hope a balance of, knowing when to have fun and knowing when to bring intensity and expectations. So I would hope they would say well balanced.
Okay. Good. Yeah, that always cracks me up. Every coach without fail. I hope. All right. Superpower question number 2 here. Speak every language or talk to animals?
I gotta go talk to animals. I'm a dog person. I've got 2 German Shepherds, and I would give anything to know what they're thinking.
How many? You say 2?
2, yeah.
2? All right, awesome. How old?
7 and 4.
7 boy, girl, 2 boys, 2 girls.
2 boys.
2 boys. What are the names? Can you give us insight? Give us a little insight.
Strider is the 7-year-old. He's like a white mixed German Shepherd, and Wilson is 105-pound.
Oh wow!
Psycho ball of energy.
How German Shepherds, did you just kind of settle on that breed? How did that happen?
Yeah, I grew up with wiener dogs, miniature wiener dogs, and my husband's family grew up with Shepherds. So he was the driving force between that, and I love them. So can't complain.
Yeah, I grew up with German Shepherds as well. But I kind of, long story short, I kind of migrated to a boxer. I became a boxer guy, and now we're a boxer family. Going back to, this is a whole other.
Didn't you used to box?
That too. Yeah, I did that too. But yeah, that was just a coincidence. But no, it was actually kind of linked to my first boxer after my combat injury, and coming back from Iraq in 04 or 03, I should say. He kind of became my service dog, right? So that kind of forever linked me to that breed, and I love them to death. So I tell everybody we're a boxer family. So yeah, we're on our 3rd one now, 3rd boxer. So yeah, definitely much a dog family, dog person as well. So I feel you on that one.
Would you speak to dogs also then over languages?
You've got
a pull in both corners, I guess, right?
I don't know. Well, see, because now if it was just talk to dogs, maybe it's a little different. But I feel like, now, full disclosure, I do speak multiple languages, right? So I feel like I just kind of naturally have to lean towards speak every language because, 1, a certain level of a knack with languages, but 2, as a soccer coach, that just would be so much gold, You can speak all these different languages, and it's truly the world's game, and you can connect with so many different players and communicate that much more effectively. I feel like as the soccer coach in me feels like you kind of have to default to that one. But yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you say that again?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry, sorry, broke up there a little bit. All right, next one. So we talked about speaking the language. You talked about how would your players describe you. Now this one's going to be a little bit more reflective, Coach. Final one. It's going to put you on the hot seat just a little bit. So and I do ask this one from time to time. This one has evolved into one of my more popular questions, but the 2023-2024 season for the Austin Anderson Trojans will be a success if
it will be a success if we, this is tough because my quote, I said, you can measure success in so many different ways in the Texas high school realm. So, the person side of me wants to say it'll be a success if the girls have gained anything from it.
Mm-hmm.
The soccer side of me says it'll be a success when we make playoffs again.
Yeah.
And when we finish higher than we finished last year. But I hate saying that because I'm going to leave it there.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Don't backtrack. No, that's great. That's great. Because I was going to tell you, it's like, hey, your initial instinct there is, and it's not putting you on the spot, and it's not disrespectful to anyone else, is what naturally comes out of your mouth as you're communicating that is not if we make, but when we make,
Right.
right? So that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. That's great. That's great. And it doesn't come across as in any way, shape, or form disrespectful. So I can appreciate that, Coach. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Of course.
Coach, that's gonna do it. You believe it? We went through all of that already. That was 14 questions. Or no, 15 questions actually. So great job. So as we start to wrap up here, and as is our custom coaching stoppage time now after counterattack, we like to give the floor, the opportunity to our guests to whatever, whether it's a shout out, a thank you, something that's on their mind, something that they want to talk about as it relates to the game. We kind of try to give them an open forum. So the floor is yours, Coach.
Yeah. Well, just want to start by thanking you. I think again, what you're doing here holds a lot of value for just high school or Texas soccer in general, connecting coaches, connecting colleges, players. So thank you for that. Final kind of notes, I want to shout out my coaching staff. We brought on another coach this year, Tyler Carpenter at Mary Hardin Baylor. He's joining us this year. So excited to see what he's bringing to the program. I'm a more defensive minded coach, and he'll help us out more with some offensive creativity. And then coming back again, we have Rebecca McMahon and Josh Stark, who I've coached with now, going on year 3 with both of them, who are both fantastic, and we are a well-oiled machine. So shout out to them, shout out to the team. 3 strong teams this year. Looking forward to the season. And then kind of final thought, something that, in meeting you and thinking about both of our experiences and kind of both of us having unconventional journeys, to landing in high school coaching, just reminding people, yes, things happen for a reason, but we create our own luck.
Right.
Players create their own luck. When someone says you're lucky or this happened or that happened, you've created that. It's because you've done something in your life to lead you where you are. So I think that message can be left with my team, and then with anyone else listening. Go out there and create your own luck.
Right. Well said. I don't know if I can follow that with my own, man. That's great. So I guess you're stealing my thunder after stealing the Lance Key thunder, right? So that's
There,
how it
yeah.
goes. That's how it goes. Awesome. Thank you, Coach. That was well put, exceptionally well put. And my final thoughts, gonna try to make this quick, is congratulations to all our athletes, all our soccer players, all our student athletes around the great state of Texas. Wishing you all again the absolute best of luck. Tryouts were across the state this past week. Some were maybe a little bit before, but the majority were this week. And congratulations if you are on a roster, not just a varsity roster. And for some of those who received maybe they were kind of the topic of some tough conversations, and they didn't make a varsity program or anything like that. Don't put your head down. All right. This does not define you. Keep working and come back stronger. And, we always point, what's the classic, the kind of signature story of a player being cut is the Michael Jordan, right? The Michael Jordan story, right? We talk about that. Different sport, obviously, but nonetheless, very, very applicable. So best of luck to all our student athletes, to our coaches as well. Best of luck to you as we start. This is the week where scrimmages start ramping up, and next few weeks, it'll start counting for real in a few weeks. So best of luck to everybody. Remember, the big thing, my focus has always been with scrimmages in particular, is get out of there healthy, right? Stay healthy. So other than that, this was episode 99. So our next one will be our big 100, episode 100. That will be in a couple of weeks. That will be our 3-year, excuse me, our 3-year anniversary mark as well. So as it'll fall in line with episode 100. So pretty cool. That was by complete coincidence, but yeah, we're excited for that. It'll be a fun, informal episode, have some different guests on as well. But again, the big thing is go on, subscribe on YouTube. You can find us at just search the 50_50 podcast on YouTube, subscribe, sign up for the notifications, ring that bell there. And then you can find us, for those, if you are watching this, obviously you can see this on your header, but if you are listening to this, you can find us on on X, as well as on Twitch at 50_50pod, as well as on Instagram at 50_50 podcast. So for Coach Emily Horvath of the Austin Anderson Trojans, I'm your host, Coach Hector Cano, thanking all of you again. We always mention that you are the reason why we do it. It reminds us of our mission, so we cannot thank you enough. And until the next time, you know what to do. Keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 podcast, powered by National Scouting Report. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at 50_50pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening.